to The Road Reflected with Nicole Wakeland. Automotive from the lighter side. That means cars, but also cookies, coffee, and pie. Up first, what's Nicole behind the wheel of this week?
Okay, so I'm keeping it still with electrified vehicles because I feel that's the way everything's going.
They're growing.
But yeah, so it's all about electrification. So this week, another Genesis. I feel like at this point I've driven everything they have that's electrified or not. I feel like,
It does feel like the
Genesis all
Genesis
the time.
fleet has been showing up lately.
I know, it's been showing up. So I am in the 2023 Genesis Electrified G80 all-wheel drive.
Monroney moment.
Okay, so there's only one trim of this. It's technically the Prestige all-wheel drive. There's no just one. You only get one. It's a 282-mile range. There's an 87.2 kilowatt-hour battery, dual motor all-wheel drive. Tricky words. 365 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque. And the price on this is $81,495. And that's there's no extras. That's literally how it comes, just as it comes.
Yeah, so it's kind of a high price point, but it does feel pretty luxurious.
Yeah, well, remember, Genesis is a luxury brand.
Yeah,
It's Hyundai's luxury arm, leg, branch, whatever. So it's still got that luxury vibe going inside. So it's absolutely beautiful. You know, it has that very quiet ride. It's not just the fact that it's an EV. The EV, of course, that makes it quiet because you don't have any engine noise to deal with, but it's just everything's quiet. You don't hear the road. You don't hear the wind. We were driving through the rain. You don't really hear the rain.
No, it's very luxurious.
It's very quiet. I feel like half of driving a luxury car is just making it feel like you have completely blocked the outside world and all of its horrific intrusions from getting to you. So it's very, very quiet.
Yeah, very mellow.
And I like that. And it's also very, very smooth. We had rough roads. I drive back and forth to Boston, to Logan Airport, and they're doing construction because Boston. And even though the highways are a mess, you still don't feel a lot of it. You can see it.
Yeah.
You don't feel it in the steering wheel because it's very controlled, and you don't feel it like vibration in the car. So they did a fabulous job on making the suspension system sort of absorb all that obnoxious road imperfections.
How's the pickup? Because it's quiet.
Well, it's quiet, but
does it go?
Yeah, well, because here's the weird thing with electric vehicles. Like, I read those numbers: 365 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque. You think that should make like a difference. It's weird in EVs because you get all the torque at once. So it's not like you go, like when you hit I still want to call it gas pedal. You hit the accelerator. Accelerator is just such a formal, fancy, like accelerator pedal. When you hit the pedal, it really moves. But that's the case in pretty much every EV because all that torque happens at once. So it's not so much like you look at gas-powered cars, you're like, oh, it's a Hellcat. It's got 700 horsepower. It's like, no, it's an EV. So boom, it's going to go like crazy.
You're really just talking about top speed when you're talking the difference between
or just
large horsepower.
Yeah, or it makes a difference but it makes a difference, but it doesn't. It's really weird.
Yeah.
So always in an EV, my favorite thing about it is you get into highway traffic and you're trying to merge and you're in the right lane and someone's driving like a poke. No problem. You can cut to the left and fly, and you don't, not that you're cutting people off, but in other vehicles where you might think, I shouldn't cut over because I'm not going to be able to go fast enough
Right.
to not have a guy behind me be wanting to flip me off. It's
Right.
like this one, like you can cut over and there's no problem. You're going to be well out of his way by the time he catches up to you.
Which is nice for like a luxury sedan-sized vehicle where you still feel like you can go. And
Yes, you still very much feel like that. And, you know, as it's got a good range, 282 miles. So the driving you're going to do in a typical day, covered.
Yeah.
You won't even need to worry about finding someplace for public charging.
Right.
That's not going to be an issue. And on a road trip, okay, so 282 miles, that's a good chunk of your road trip. And it does fast charge. So you can go from 10% of your battery to 80% of your battery in about 22 minutes.
That's pretty sweet.
Right? So if you figure you stop, you plug it in, you go inside, you get yourself a big gulp, and you get yourself a cheeseburger, maybe a Slurpee, beef jerky. I feel like beef
you gotta
jerky.
have jerky for the road.
That's a road trip food, right?
Yeah.
What's your other favorite road trip food?
I would say beef jerky is my go-to, but right behind that would be the kids always like Pringles.
Pringles.
I think it's because they're in the tubes and you can restore them. And they're
it just feels cool, a tube of Pringles.
Exactly. And for some reason, they're in every gas station. They're like always there.
Is it because they're easy to eat? Like you try and jam your hand into a bag of chips in your hand.
Yeah, and you got the like bite-sized Pringle tubes, but I go for the big tube.
No, does anybody like when you get the bite-sized Pringle tubes? I always feel like you've been cheated. Like I don't want the little 2-inch tall tube. I want the full.
Well, there's always air at the top anyway. So you're looking at like,
so there's not as many.
Feel like you get robbed.
There's really not as many chips in there as you think it is. So just go for the full Pringles tube.
Also combos.
Combos?
Combos.
Which ones? Because there's a million flavors.
Well, I like the pizza ones.
The pretzel ones are good too, but the pizza outside.
Isn't there a taco one? Isn't there something with a taco?
I don't know that I've seen the taco.
There was,
one.
I thought.
But combos are also good, but your fingers get all fuzzy, so that's a thing.
Yeah, see, and that's the other thing. Pringles don't make
Which
your
you
fingers
don't want in
all
your
messy.
luxury car. You don't want the fuzz
You
all over the
definitely don't want that in your luxury car because this is beautiful. And it has a touch screen that would have your pringly, taco-y, nasty fingerprints. It's got a 14.5-inch touch screen. There is a rotary controller, which I'm not generally a fan of, but you've got a combination on this. You've got controls in the steering wheel that you can use. You've got the rotary dial controller that you can use, and you have your touch screen. So you have sort of like a multitude of ways. Which one do you like? Whichever one you like, you can pick and you can do that. So I kind of like that. And I do feel like the way the system is arranged, the menus on the screen, it's very easy to use even with the dial. The one weird thing though is with the dial. So you have a rotary dial that also is your gear shift, reverse.
Oh, and they're right next
and
to
it's
each
right,
other?
one's right in front of the other. Now I
that's
think
dangerous.
there's slightly different sizes and they definitely have a different, if you look, they look a little different and the texture on the outside of them is different.
Good.
So as your fingers kind of grab the sides of it, you're going to feel the difference. And I'm, for me, I had to think about it because I'm only driving this car for a week, right? But if you drove this car all the time, kind of like where you learn where certain buttons are, if you put your hand down, you're like, oh, wait, wrong one. You just move forward.
See, I just feel like the shifting experience should be a unique experience in the vehicle. Like, they experimented putting automatic shifting, like where the wiper trigger is on some cars.
Some of them didn't experiment. Some of them still do that.
And
I
that
hate
scares
that.
the bejesus out of me. I'm going to do the wipers, and all of a sudden I've shifted
The
down.
number of times I've shifted a car into neutral, it's like, crud, that's not
so
the windshield
I feel
wipers.
like the gears should be its own little universe.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the same as every other car, but it can't be like any other control in the car.
That's fair.
That's my
fair.
feeling.
Other things that something I do like about this is when we were talking about charging, the port is in the front.
Ooh, this is nice. Yes.
It's in the front. So here's a nice thing. So when you're pulling in, you don't have to be on the right side or left side.
Yeah.
That sounds like such a little thing, but I love just being able to pull straight in and know that I'm going to be able to charge.
because it hides in the grill and you don't see it.
It does. It's this sort
like
of
a secret plug.
diamond-shaped door, right? Isn't it diamond-shaped?
It's a diamond-shaped door inside of a diamond-shaped grid on the grill.
Yeah.
So you don't really... And I like this because there's this habit lately in electric cars to make the front just sort of this flat monochrome
Yeah, it looks
thing.
awful.
I still like a grill on a car. I don't know if it's just old school or
It
just
is
looks
old
cool,
school, but it looks better.
But here they've got like almost this like diamond plate front thing, and then there's this little section that pops open. It looks secret, but you can find it. It's not like unfindable. And you're right. The spot on the car is very convenient.
I like it when the plug is there as opposed to like on the rear, on the sides. I just find it
center front. I think is ideal.
I think that's the best place to have the plug. So I like that, and it's it's a luxury electric vehicle. Rides like a luxury car. Looks like a luxury car. Like there's leather everything inside. There's all like wood trims, and everything is just absolutely beautiful and smooth and perfect, and sort of like cuddles you as you drive down the highway.
And again, like we talked about with other Genesises.
Yes.
There's $80,000 is a lot of money. No,
Yes.
don't get me wrong. But for that money, you're getting what you get again in other cars that are over 100. So you're getting a really good value for that price.
You never feel like you're driving a car and you don't think like, wow, I really overpaid for this. I'm not getting the experience I thought I would get for the money that I paid. I think generally speaking in a Genesis, you feel like you paid for more than this.
Right.
Like you what you paid for is getting you more than what you thought. Like,
and again, it's not notice me from the outside, but on the inside, as soon as someone gets inside, they're like, "Ooh, this is nicer."
Although the nice thing is there aren't a lot of these on the road, so I mean it's still a mass market thing, but people don't always know them, and they have kind of neat styling. Like even the wheels, they have really pretty wheel designs on Genesis vehicles. They just look really striking, so they get your attention. And that grill you were talking about, that sort of like diamondy patterned grill. It's very bold and it's very striking. So I think people see it and people see the car, and because there aren't tons and tons of these on the road, especially in the EVs, which have a limited availability depending on the state you live in, they actually stand out and they look like something special.
And they have these cool lines on the front quarter panels, like above the wheel, between like kind of where the front quarter panel ends and the driving door starts. There's like this little decoration silver thing.
You
know what
like
I'm talking
that?
about? It reminds me of, if you think about the Spitfires from World War II, they have these little intakes on the side, and it looks like that, which just makes it look cool.
So you feel like you're
but
flying
like, is there an
a plane.
official term for those things where people start to put little decorations, kind of like
I don't know. I'm
in
trying
front
to
of the
think
rear
exactly
view mirror?
what
You know
you're
what I'm talking about, though? That little.
I want to say it feels
area?
like it should be some kind of vent, but there doesn't.
But it's a faux vent. It's not really a vent. I mean, on high end.
I'm gonna have to
cars,
double check because I honestly can't remember exactly what that detail looks like in the car.
But it looks
honest.
cool. I think it gives it a cool sense of style. I think people look at it and go, that's not the car I thought it was. It's a little cooler than that. Yeah.
It is definitely a luxury car that is cool and different, and I think stands out from the rest. And with being an EV, you're getting a ton of range. You're not having to fill it up with gas and deal with gas prices rising as they do this time of year, especially in the summer, and they're going up again. So I like Genesis. I really like them. They're quickly becoming sort of my favorite of the luxury brands that, the brand has the standard, like a Toyota has a Lexus and a Honda has an Acura. Hyundai has Genesis. I think Genesis is at the top of my list right now.
And one more call out we should say is we had 2 college-age guests in town.
We did.
We were hauling around 5 people in that vehicle quite a bit.
We did.
And they were not complaining in the backseat. 3 20-year-olds in the backseat all making it on
and one
time.
of them was 6'3",
yes,
and he was sitting behind you, who was also
and he
6'3", and there was room. I mean, you guys probably wouldn't have wanted to do that for like a 40-hour trip across country, but it's a spacious little luxury car.
To go.
Okay, everyone, if you like what you're hearing, then go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe either on YouTube or your favorite podcatcher. Okay, we got another luxury car.
We're just living large lately.
Yeah, we kind of are living large.
They're just showing up in the driveway like, woo, look at that baby.
That jinx me. Next week, I'm going to get like the cheapest car that some OEM
You kind
makes.
of deserve it, though, at this
I know.
point.
I'm not going to complain.
I don't really think you complain.
I feel like whatever I get, I'm happy. So this time, this is the 2023 Lincoln Corsair plug-in hybrid electric vehicle.
Woo!
Yes. It is $53,885. So it's about 20 grand less than the Genesis. And although it's still very luxurious inside, you feel the difference. Like it doesn't feel quite as upscale.
Which is weird when you say it's a Lincoln. It's like it's a Lincoln, but it doesn't feel like the Genesis.
See, which is like a hats off to Genesis. Yeah. It feels fancier. And it is 20 grand more. Right? But if you put 20 grand into your Lincoln too, you guess what they could do. Right. So, and this is in the Grand Touring trim. Now, the Lincoln Corsair comes as a gas engine. I want to say there's 3 trims. Right. Only the top Grand Touring is available with a plug-in hybrid. Right. So if you don't want the plug-in hybrid, you cannot get this trim. So they kind of tricked it out. So there's room for 5. I think the back seats in this, despite being a crossover, felt a little bit more snug.
Yeah, even though it's a crossover. That's the interesting thing about that,
Yeah, the G80 is just this very spacious sedan. So this, for me, plug-in hybrids, as much as I like EVs, I feel like plug-ins are sort of the sweet spot for people right now.
Yes.
Because depending on where you live, there isn't a good charging network. Now, granted, like I said, you're probably not going to need to charge unless you're on a road trip. And that's fine. But with a plug-in hybrid, if you do need to charge, you don't actually have to. Right. You can use that electric range, and if there's not a convenient charging station, you've got a gas engine. Of course, you're paying more because you're using gas and, the trade-off there. But I feel like it's this nice, happy medium. I like plug-in hybrids because there's sort of the baby step. They're the training wheels.
Also, they make their road trippable vehicles. It's really, it's I don't want to say it's a chore. It's just a lot more work to road trip in a pure EV than it is to do with a plug-in hybrid.
It is. And, one of the things that, and I noted this in here, Ford had done this already, and now GM is doing it too. They're ditching the CCS, which is the current charging plug system that we all have, and they're going with Teslas.
Ooh, like native in the vehicle.
Yes, it's going to be, and it's not yet, like you aren't at a point where you're using those yet, and you need an adapter, and it's only going to be some stations, and going forward, and it depends exactly when the car and blah, blah, blah. But they're rolling these out, and it's going to give them, one of the figures I looked at said it's going to give them, like Tesla, like 70% of cars, EVs on the road will be able to use Tesla chargers. Now that's going to apply more to like this is a plug-in hybrid, but like in terms of charging network, that's one of the things that will make it more appealing to have an EV instead of a plug-in hybrid, because suddenly you have, you can love or hate Tesla, and people you don't think Tesla's okay. You love Tesla or you hate Tesla. Right. You love Elon Musk or he's Satan. You take your pick. There is no in-between on this. Right. Like if you think there's an in-between, no. You must take your side and you must stand on that side and never give up. But so either way, it's going to be, there's a lot of argument about this is the stupidest thing that Ford and GM ever did, because now every time someone goes to plug in, they're looking at an ad for Tesla. Yes, but also maybe you wouldn't have been as likely to buy that electric vehicle from Ford or GM because you didn't think you could charge it. Now you feel like you can.
I just like the idea that you can pretty much, if you see an electric charger, you can kind of use it. That's kind of where they're going, right?
I think what they're trying to do is come up with a standard. They want to have sort of like a nationwide standard. And with this move, it could make the NACS, I believe, is the charger that they, I don't know how, do they say NACS? NACS? I haven't heard anyone see it. I've only ever read it. So they're trying to make Teslas the standard is probably what it's leaning to, or not trying to. That's what it's going towards.
Well, they've got the largest network. So that's sort of what
they definitely have the most reliable network.
They do.
Good Lord, theirs is so much more reliable than everyone else's.
So my car is a plug-in hybrid, and when I go to the places where I can plug in, half the time some of them don't work, or there's 3 and they're all full. And then I longingly look across the street at the 18 Tesla chargers,
Exactly.
half of which are empty. And I'm like, oh,
Just
come
sitting there
on.
laughing and going.
So I don't think this is a bad move at all. I think
don't either.
more places I can plug my car in, the better.
The better. So you could plug in. And so with this, the plug-in hybrid of the Lincoln Corsair, it's a 266 horsepower 4-cylinder engine, and it gets about 28 miles of range.
Yep.
Decent range for a plug-in hybrid. You're not getting the, it's for a little bit, but you're like, oh, 28 miles, that's nothing. But 28 miles is a lot in a typical day. Like if you have a commute, depending on your commute, you might be able to get down there.
That's running errands around town.
Right.
And you still got a gas tank to go farther.
Right. And if you have a level 2 charger at your house that you can install or choose not to, it's up to you. You can just plug it in between and you still get to use that range a lot.
And this is where I love that you say it's like it's the next step. So you get the plug-in charger in your home, and now you have, and now you have you can go around town, but then when you eventually graduate to a full EV, you've already got the charger.
You already have a charger, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's kind of nice. And there was something neat that I thought was worth calling out in this. And the folks from Lincoln mentioned it to me. The Canadian wildfires were really bad, and we're in the Northeast.
Oh, yeah.
So you saw, most people saw those horrific pictures in New York that looked like Tatooine. It was like orange. It was this really creepy
And it's
sky.
not just East Coast. I was out in Detroit. They had the same problem. They're like number 2 in the terms of air quality.
So it was like a huge swath of of our country that was dealing with, in Canada, of course, that were dealing with these wildfires, and you could feel it. Like it made your voice a little hoarse. People who had asthma, you got runny noses, you're coughing, you're sniffling, all this stuff. They have something that's called auto air refresh, and I played with it because the Lincoln folks are like, "Hey, you're in the Northeast. You have this car. We've got this cool gadget." So when you look at this, it's kind of neat. It actually is something that always helps filter your cabin air, but then it actually shows you, so you can look at it and it shows you this fancy little color
so it's like
graph.
analyzing the air.
Yeah, so it looks and it shows you what is the actual PM 2.5, which is particulate matter smaller than 2.5 microns in the cabin air, not outside, what's in your cabin.
So what's getting inside.
Right. So it shows you what's getting inside. And it's like a colored chart, like from green to like dark red, which I assume you're in the middle of a wildfire and it's too late to do much of anything.
Leave now.
Right. So there's a range of color, but we were in the green. Like I went outside now to take a picture of this screen because I wanted to see it. It's going like 0 to 1. So it's a little green dot. But I was watching, there were some people who shared this information, like pictures of this in cities that were affected by it. And I saw people that were like in the orange, which is kind of in the middle. So what it'll do though is it sees this and it can recirculate the cabin air and push it through the filter to help bring down that particulate matter in your car.
That's super cool. But, we had a daughter who had bad asthma. So it'd be nice to be able to check the air quality wherever you are and kind of know.
And you could kind of just see in general,
awesome.
like she's having a hard time. Oh, the air quality here is
to
terrible.
also know that my car's kind of protecting me from that is pretty cool.
Right. So if you're going,
a neat feature.
And if you live in a city where presumably your air quality is not as good as it is out in the wilds of New England where we are, you're always going to have a poor air quality. You run this and then it's keeping the cabin air cleaner, which I think is kind of cool.
Like the HEPA filter, but with extra oomph because you can see what's going on.
Because you can see. They call it the available auto air refresh is a holistic air filtration and active air monitoring system.
Ooh, an active air monitoring system.
I know. It sounds very fancy. I'm reading the official clip that they gave us.
AAMS.
Active air AMS. Yeah, I don't think that means anything else, and I don't think Lincoln's going to adapt that.
No, but I'm here for them.
They
need any marketing ideas. I'm right there.
But it was fun to drive this. So aside from it having the fancy cabin air filter, this is a nice little car. It's comfortable. It's got the same vibe as the G80. It has leather seating surfaces. There's heated front seats. There's fancy ambient lighting. There's a leather wrapped steering wheel. So in every way, it feels like a luxury car. It's a nice, quiet ride. Even when it's switching from EV, from the electric to the gas, of course you hear that switch when it happens. Right. And it always is a little bit jarring, not in terms of like it does anything wrong, but it's so quiet and then boom, all of a sudden you're hearing the engine. It makes you realize just how loud the engine is, even
really
when
do.
it's not.
I noticed that in my Jeep.
Like when it kicks on, you're so very aware of it.
Yeah.
So, but it's smooth when it makes that transition, which is a big deal.
Yep.
And it's overall quiet. Not as quiet as when it's running on electric, but still very quiet. So I liked it. And it's nice. It's a nice, comfy luxury vehicle that I think is great for little families. Hey, wait, did we just drive by a bakery? No, we did not drive by a bakery, nor did we drive by one of my favorite pancake places. So we said we had college kids in town this weekend, and they went here without us because it was one of their favorite things.
Which is sad.
Yeah, I hate them a little.
Yes.
I'm not paying her tuition next semester as revenge.
Right.
Like, tuition? What tuition? On your own, child. So it's a place in New Hampshire, a place called Sugar Hill.
Yes.
Which is appropriate because it's called Polly's Pancake Parlor.
Right.
So pancake places, they're a big deal in New England.
They are, particularly in New Hampshire. We like our pancakes and we like our syrup.
And it's all about the maple syrup because we have a lot of maple syrup. So does Vermont. Although in Canada, there's like a maple syrup like cartel or something.
Oh yeah, no, it's a mafia situation.
It's like the mafia in Canada. You don't
Yeah.
mess with the Canadians. No. Like they're really, really nice. That's their reputation, right? But I think if you like mess with their syrup, they're like,
Yeah, I feel like in New Hampshire, you can run your own little maple syrup making operation.
Right.
If you did that in Canada, some guys would show up and go, hey, this is a nice sugar shack you got here. How about, shame if anything happened to it. But and it'd also be very polite. They'd be very polite.
They'd be very polite as they threaten your life over your
polite. They would
over
just
your unauthorized sugaring.
That you have a small fee to pay in order to sugar shack.
Well, we have, and it actually takes a huge number of. It's like to make like 1 ounce of maple syrup or something. It's like
it's a lot of work.
Gallons and gallons and gallons. It takes forever to boil it down into.
So you see the buckets on all the trees in the area.
I know, which is like how you know. So when you live around here, you see it, and you see the buckets on the trees, and you see the lines running between the buckets. You think, oh, it's almost maple syrup season.
So hit up the Polly's, right?
Yeah. So Polly's Pancake Parlor. So it's in the White Mountains in New Hampshire, which is a beautiful area. So we normally go there when we're vacationing. And it's like touristy because people love to come there, but also it's absolutely amazing.
It's in the middle of nowhere also. So you have to kind of know about it.
You have to know about it.
It's people do. It's been around long enough.
It's been around a long time. They've remodeled it a couple times. And it's the kind of place where, and it's very much a thing in the Northeast with diners too. You show up for breakfast. If you want to not have to wait at a really good diner for breakfast, you better be there by 8 a.m. or forget it. You're going to wait. Well, at Polly's, you better be there 35 seconds after they open.
Which is 7 a.m.
Which is 7 a.m.
Be there at 7 or sooner.
Or you're going to wait. So we normally get there quite early to get to Polly's. Like it makes IHOP look like a mockery of all things breakfast.
IHOP, that's not, you shouldn't even put them in the same sentence.
Right? They shouldn't be in the same sentence. I've insulted Polly's. But what makes this cool is it's not just that you get real maple syrup. You guys, you get to pick everything. So you want pancakes. They make sort of not silver dollar pancakes. They're a little bit bigger, but not full size your dinner plate kind of pancakes. But you pick the batter and you pick the filling.
Yes.
And you can mix and match however your little heart desires. So they get funky things like there's buckwheat and there's gingerbread, there's oatmeal, there's cornmeal. You can get all these different pancakes. And
that's just the batter. That's like cornmeal pancake batter, people.
Right.
That's which is amazing. Oatmeal, it's awesome.
Oh, that oatmeal buttermilk is my
And then they have a
favorite.
seasonal one too, usually.
Sometimes sometimes they have seasonal, and there's fillings, of course, and then you can mix and match however you want. There's blueberries. They always have blueberries. They've got walnuts. They've got chocolate chips. I think there's coconut. I'm not a coconut fan.
Yeah, Christmas time they do like a gingerbread with like chocolate chip filling.
Right, and you can do like say I want gingerbread chocolate chip, and you're like that's gross. I want gingerbread walnut. Do that.
Yeah,
and you don't have to get all the same. You can order like 3 to 6 pancakes, and you can pick every single one different.
Yes, what's cool exactly. So your whole table. You got like 8 people at your table, and every person could be getting like an order of 3 to 6 pancakes, and each person's pancake in that stack is completely different batter, different filling. What's really cool about this model is the waiter, the person waiting on your table, actually cooks your pancakes, which means they don't get it wrong because they can't blame it on the kitchen.
Right.
But also, what's really cool is they have this giant counter that you can see in front of the kitchen, and there's this giant long griddle behind the counter, and all the wait staff goes up there and they make your pancakes. You can see them doing it, which is really cool. So as you're walking in, you can look in and see them dropping the pancakes on the griddle and then putting the fillings in. It's really now there's still a full kitchen back and making the eggs.
Right, you can get bacon and eggs and omelets and waffles and all these other things. But man, if you're going there, you need to get the pancakes.
Get the pancakes. They do have a bakery in front too.
They do have a bakery, and sometimes they'll have like biscuits, like with bacon in them.
My brother always gets the maple bacon biscuit.
That's exactly it. That's John's favorite thing.
Tasty.
He loves that.
Yeah.
But I like it. But my thing that in addition to getting the pancakes, because the pancakes are life, they also have this maple bacon, and it puts every other maple bacon to shame because you have the maple bacon, and then you put maple syrup on your maple bacon.
Yes.
All the maple you could possibly want. Then, is that not enough maple for you? No, it's not. So you also get the maple coffee.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And it's not like some weird like maple like syrup, like fake or real or otherwise that they put in there. It's like a maple flavored coffee.
And they have the maple sugar butter spread.
Yes.
Which you also smear. You can put on your pancakes for extra mapley goodness, which is also pretty darn impressive.
Yes. And it's also, it's like, it is the place to go, but you have to be there early.
Yes.
And you have to come with an empty stomach because this is your breakfast / lunch / maybe a little bit of your dinner.
And if you're feeling really hungry, I would recommend the Polly's Panwich.
Oh, this is amazing.
Which is where they take 2 of the pancakes and they turn it into a breakfast sandwich with egg, bacon, cheese, or whatever. And you can just, oh my goodness. Now that's very filling. but it's delicious.
It's all really filling. And they're really good about, like, if you want to order more, like for the pancakes, like, oh, my 6 little pancakes wasn't enough. Would you like 2 more? We could make 2 more. Would you like 2 more of whatever flavor your little heart desires?
If you want to be responsible, the pancakes are relatively small. So you can get 3 and be okay.
You could.
But nobody can resist because it's such a long drive. It's out in the middle of nowhere. By the time you get there,
and you don't get to go there very often.
Just make it the meal of the day.
And the view is absolutely amazing because you're in the White Mountains. So you look out the window of this little sugar shack place that kind of looks like a barn. It's very rustic looking on the outside.
It's beautiful.
And you just have this beautiful view of the mountains. And depending on the time of year, the mist is coming over the mountains. Or if you're in the fall, there's the foliage. And I've done this once or twice when I couldn't get up there. And it's like, what is it, 2-3 hours away from us? You can even order Polly's pancake stuff online. You can go and you can order their mixes.
Yes.
And you can make them at home.
They have a whole little store there, too.
Okay. And I actually thought the mix, I'm like, oh, that's not going to make as much as they say. I must have made like 50 pancakes. I had pancakes in the freezer for a month, but it was amazing.
Yeah. If you're looking for a road trip in New Hampshire, just make sure it includes Polly's Pancake Parlor.
Thanks for listening to The Road Reflected. To follow more of Nicole Wakeland's adventures, head on over to NicoleWakeland.com. There you'll find links to her social media from TikTok to Twitter, as well as her work across a wide range of media outlets. Until next time, keep it shiny side up.